it's me, Kemba Upshaw Howard. I'm the big sis, not the little one.
Hey, it's Denise Nicole Upshaw. And she might be the big sis, but I'm the one that's been giving them hell since the 99s and the 2000s. Today, we're going to talk about healing journeys and what are some of the strategies and tips and tricks to have a robust healing journey. That is what
Right.
we are going to focus on today. We know that everybody's on some kind of journey, but what does it really mean to heal? And what are some of the strategies that folks are using these days to really achieve their optimal self?
Right.
So Kimba, what are your thoughts about healing? Like, what does it mean to be healed or to go on a healing journey?
Girl, listen, I have to keep this on the up and up. Um, you hear a lot of people talking about the term growth. Now that's growth. That's growth. And I feel that. I feel that prophetically. Growth is a real thing, but growth can only take place when we heal from places that we've been, whether those are mental places, spiritual places, or physical places. Once we heal or get on that healing journey, at that point, there's an amount of growth. For me, I think that just the process itself started in my 20s, and I was given some tools through therapy that it was okay, that it was okay to sit still and to be alone, because being alone is not lonely. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to share that for me, having an accountability partner is everything. My accountability partner just happens to be my husband. Yay. Not also yay, but always yay. Um, what I find is that when he and I are in harmony and we're perfectly aligned, then my cup of abundance, it overflows. And only when it overflows am I able to give myself to others. So I've learned that on my journey that I can't do it by myself, and that accountability partner is important for me. So that's one thing for me. How about for you?
Okay, yeah. And for me, healing is taking the time to inventory kind of where you are and what's working and what's not working. And it takes a little bit of time, to figure that out. It's not usually something people, in your teens, you're healing because you're just starting to figure it out. So maybe in your 20s, like you said, and 30s, you're figuring out what's been working for you and what hasn't, what from likely from childhood or even other adverse experiences have made life go in the direction that you want it to go, or maybe not. So if there are traumas or triggers, even if there are things that maybe you don't intentionally do, but it's happening,
Mm-hmm.
if you are around somebody and you get anxious, or if you have an issue with cursing at people and you're like, well, I picked that up in my childhood. So, whatever it is that's keeping you from being your optimal self, I think, is usually the precipice of a healing journey. And then we go through the process to inventory what has happened in the past
Mm-hmm.
and what has contributed to being at that place. And it's not to start blaming others for where you are, it's to start taking accountability for your own growth. And it also may mean just loving on yourself, changing the way that you talk to yourself, that internal
Right.
dialogue.
Yeah.
So I think for me, one of the first things that is important, or even just on my list, I would say for sure, is forgiving myself. Forgiving
Yeah.
myself for doing the best that I could with the information and tools that I had at the time,
Right.
that I erred in whatever way that was. And so taking the step to hear and kind of listen to my inner self and what are the things that I feel ashamed of or the things that I feel
Right.
guilt about, taking the moment to either journal that out or talk to someone about it, and then recognizing that we all have fallen short, we all are doing our best,
Right.
and in that moment we did the best that we could with the information we had and the tools that we had.
So how do you
And so yeah.
know? How do you know
Yeah.
that it's time to have that conversation with yourself?
I think it's time to have that conversation when you inventory where you are in your life. And that may be that you are proactively doing it or someone
Hmm.
has brought it to your attention.
Hmm.
Like, gosh, you're in your 30s and you're still doing this thing and it's hurting your relationships
Yeah,
or it's hurting you, maybe your health isn't great or your relationships aren't great. um, those are usually indicators that there's something deeper going on that should be addressed.
correct. You know, Lisa Nicole, she is a motivational speaker. And she says you must forgive yourself 1,000 times. And every time you get to 999, reset.
Yeah.
Forgive yourself 1,000 times. And I always think of that. I always think of that in terms of having grace for myself.
Yeah, and that's what it turns out to be, grace, right? And I think that's so important because sometimes when I say take inventory of shame and guilt, sometimes we have carried over shame and
Hmm.
carried over guilt that came from our parents or grandparents who
Hmm.
had their own ideals about what a child or an adult should be doing at that time based on the circumstances they were in at the time.
Yeah.
And they brought that, they taught their children, but their children may not have had those same circumstances, but now they have the expectation from the family member that this is how they
Right.
should be operating when times have changed. So anyway, it really can be someone pointing that out. It can
Hmm.
be you taking inventory, and then it's about action after that
Right.
and what you're going to
It,
do to change
it's
it.
that accountability partner,
That can't
right?
go,
The
yes, I
accountability
agree.
partner doesn't have to necessarily be a spouse, but the
Yeah.
accountability partner needs to be someone that you trust to hold that mirror up to you and say,
Yeah.
this is you and this is what you reflect, be it the sun or be it, some sort of darkness. This is what you reflect.
Mm.
And that's why it's important that my husband and I are always in harmony, because
Mhm.
he's my mirror, like,
Mhm.
and I can see myself through those eyes. And at that point, I know that it's a come sit down, have a moment with self type thing. And so, yeah. Um,
So important. I'm so glad. Yeah, absolutely agree with you. Yeah.
yeah. Another thing that I do to heal is to be mindful of the places, people, things, or you might hear people say people first, people, places, and things
Mhm.
that no longer serve me, right? It took a
Mhm.
lot for me to um, shake off environments that I was once in. And that's not to say that they were bad environments, right?
Mhm.
Because I'm always responsible for myself.
Right.
But those environments are no longer conducive to my actual growth and where I'm going. Like, I love
Yeah.
the people, but I want, sometimes I want those people in another environment. I
Mhm.
want to, um, I want to have dinner with you outside of everyone else. I want to sit still and I want to sit still at the beach, not inside of a lounge. Like, I
Mhm.
want to not have to go shopping, but maybe go on a walk around the
Mhm.
lake. So, people, places, and things that no longer serve me, I'm careful about putting myself in those realms. And I think that that's part of healing for me.
And do you find that you, as part of that accountability partner, saying, "Hey, this is who you are," and then you taking that inventory, and then you saying, "Well, who do I want to be?"
Hmm.
And those values that you identify, is that what helps you line up who should still be around and who shouldn't? Or tell me your process for that.
So, with that, my accountability partner, my husband, one of the things that he reminds me of is that I don't owe anyone anything. You know, um, one of our cousins said to me years ago, right? Some things just kind of stick. But one of our cousins said to me, Kimba, it's not for you to come down to people's level as much as it is that they need to come up to yours. Kind of
Mm,
like stand in your truth. And when you stand in
mm,
your truth, if they don't fit, they don't fit and keep on going.
right, right.
Like I never forgot that. These are bits and pieces of conversations that we have along the way, be it our accountability partner or those that are close to us that reaffirm who we actually are. So I think that that's always helpful because I never want to shame someone else. And because I don't want to shame someone else, sometimes I may have like what I call it a blind naivety, or just kind of like just be you, like, and I'm not gonna worry about it. But in truth, whatever that you is to them, you know what I mean, it doesn't serve me well. So I have to
Right.
remove myself, not from the person, but from that environment. If I can't pull the person out of that environment, then maybe we don't need to talk right now. Like, so I have to be mindful of that. And I'm thankful, to my husband who says, hey, when you show up in your highest form. Don't
Mm,
show up low, show up high. It's so funny, and I'll make this really quick, that I always talk about being authentic. And girl, I am quick to throw something on social media. Like, party, party, this is what we were doing. We're working out. Like, and he's like, stop it. Stop it. He's like, while I agree with you posting, they don't need to see you like this. Can you, like, get it together before you post it or before you make the video or whatever it is. So I have to work on that. I have to work up just showing up as me. I'm here.
right,
I have to
right.
be me, but I have to be the highest version of me. And that's what he reminds me of.
Right. Yeah. And those are things that I feel like we're always questioning, am I being that, especially in the workplace for me, and I know, I think we should have, that's a topic we'll talk about, just the code switching and all of that. I think that's a really interesting topic to
For sure.
discuss. And so to align with what you just said about, removing the people, places, and things that no longer align with you, I'm gonna say my second um, method of healing and peace, because that's what it is after the healing or even during the process,
Hmm.
but like really maintaining peace is boundaries. So once you've decided that, internally or with your accountability partner, that you are going to remove yourself from those places, people, places, and things, it's now time to set boundaries for
Hmm.
yourself and for others.
Hmm.
But the boundaries really are for yourself.
Right.
Because that's all that we can control is ourselves.
Mm.
I found myself getting a lot of accolades in the work that I did. I was just really good at what I do, and I
Hmm.
felt like I was getting a lot of esteem from it.
Right.
When we start getting recognition, and it's like, okay, I'm doing something great. I'm doing, doing my thing. Um, but I also was giving almost 100% of myself, and
Right.
meaning there was no time for anything else.
Mm.
And so when that happened, and I'm starting to say like, well, I do want to have, a spouse, a family, whatever it is that I want to have. I want to have a, a healthy lifestyle. I want to have a better prayer life. Um, Really having the balance. So in order to have the balance, I needed to set the boundaries, and the
Right.
boundaries were, again, begins with myself. I'm not answering the phone on the weekends. I was somebody who would answer my work phone on the weekends, at night, holidays. You need me to go do something as the leader, I'm going to go do it. Um, and all of those things chipped away at me while
Hmm.
making things better for someone else.
Right.
And so, talking about what no longer serves you, if that no longer serves you, whatever that is, that person, then to set the boundary for yourself. Okay, you know what? I do want to stay connected with this person, but rather than spending 5 days with them, I'm going to spend 2 days with them. And
Right.
that way, because I usually around the third day is when something starts to happen. And so I want to make sure I maintain my peace.
Right.
Or I cut off my work phone after 6 p.m. and turn it back on at 7 a.m. Or, if somebody wants me to stay late, say, I really do have another engagement that I have to get to, but I'd be happy to connect with you in the morning.
Yeah.
So we always hear about boundaries, but I don't think that we were ever taught how to actually set boundaries. But
Right.
as we get older and we go off into these workplaces and we go off into relationships and we start having situations where we feel like we're either uncomfortable or we are exhausting ourselves, we must learn to set boundaries. So that's absolutely critical, in
I
my
agree.
opinion.
I think that boundaries are super important, right? Um, because the same for me, I used to put my phone in do not disturb at 9 o'clock. Don't call me after 9 o'clock. So you teach people how you want them to treat you,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So I just started putting my phone in do not disturb after 9 o'clock. And then everybody realized don't call Kimba after 9 o'clock. I no longer have that do not disturb on. Don't call me. But but I feel like I set that boundary. And in setting that
Mm-hmm.
boundary, allow folks to know Kimba gonna go to bed. You know what I mean? Kimba's gonna go to bed. And I know that there are folks who have, tested it and just for a laugh, and it was true. Kimba's in bed.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing for me, um, is just knowing that we are living in a time of darkness. The devil's rule is up. And I don't want to get too much into religion, but the devil's time is up. He has gone to and fro, and he has, just traveled the land, and he has made us run amok. And
Mm-hmm.
now that folks are stepping into the light, um, he's scattering. He's scattering for more. He wants more souls to go with him. So for
Mm-hmm.
me, I have to remember that this is a dark world, and my light is very much needed. That's a part of my healing. Um, but because the world is so dark, I do my best. I promise I do my best just to be optimistic, to be bright, to always have something to give of substance. And I think that is a big part of healing for me.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, absolutely. Staying in the light, because there are forces, I absolutely agree with you, that don't want to see the brightness that we bring. True confidence does come in standing in your joy and who you are.
Hmm.
Sometimes I have to cultivate that light because maybe that morning it didn't come on automatically, but I am committed to that. And I'm like, all right, what we need to do, how do we need to get there? So thank you for sharing that. I would say the next one for me is nature. Being in nature is, whether that's being like around animals, walking in a forest, being at the beach, sitting in the sun, the natural things that we know don't come with any ulterior motive, doesn't
Mm.
have any sort of motivation to have you do one thing or another. If you ever just like around a dog, I remember, in one of our episodes, you said you have a puppy, and just having your dog, that they have very basic needs, and that's all
Right.
that they're going after, right? They're not trying to, I was going to say they're not trying to manipulate you into doing anything, but there's some really crafty dogs, including my own, who knows how to get extra treats out of me. But for the most part, though, like they are really loving. And I feel like nature is a reflection of God in so many ways. First of all, nature is a reflection of God in its stillness.
Hmm.
Usually, even if there's water running or whatever, it's still this consistent sound and flow and rhythm
Hmm.
to nature.
Right.
And it's trusting, you can sit in it. I mean, unless there's some wild animal that comes and attacks you, but for the most part, you're in a good space, and it reflects the beauty of God when you look at the colors, number two, the colors of nature and all of the beautiful colors.
Mm-hmm.
I paint sometimes, and you want to get those colors right and want it to reflect the true color scheme or color palette that you see in nature. And so I pay closer attention to colors.
Right.
And being in nature, like if you ever, and you've been around the world, so the beaches and seeing like the different hues of blue, being in the
Yeah.
forest and seeing the different hues of greens and yellows. So I can absolutely appreciate that.
Yeah. There's an
There,
energy pool.
yeah, there is an energy pool. Yes, there's this book called Breathe. It's a children's book,
Okay.
and it's about this girl who finds herself never feeling good enough, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
she's in the classroom, they're like, oh, you need to be more of a leader. So she speaks up more, and they're like, oh, you talk too much, you need to be more quiet. Or, oh, you need to do this. And then she does it, and then it's, oh, you're doing too much.
Right.
And she goes out and she just sits in nature, and she sits, in the forest, and she just listens to the rustling of the leaves or watches a little bug crawl by or whatever. And it's just so peaceful.
Mm-hmm.
And she finds that being in nature, she can just be and
Right.
just breathe without having the expectations put on her or even her own expectations. So what's been your experience with nature?
So the thing is, another one of my healing things is very similar to what you were saying, and it's to basically keep God at the center of everything.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I read a book. I have a book, and I might mess the title up a bit, but I believe it's called "What If Buddha Was Coming to Dinner." Now you could change Buddha with whatever you want, but the premise is, if Buddha, Jesus, Muhammad, your best friend, if they were coming to dinner, what would you prepare? Now, these are entities and people that we hold at the highest level of regard.
Right.
So we will want a spectacular spread. We would want to set the table. We would want to have the best food. Like we would just make sure that the presentation was there. We would make sure that there was like music flowing. We would do all of these things to accommodate that which we believe is greater than self.
Mm-hmm.
But the truth of the matter is, it all lives within us. God
Mm-hmm.
lives within me. I have attributes of God, you know, and with that, when I keep God at my center, just like when you eat a peach, you should take your time and you should be able to taste the rain, the dirt. You should be able to taste the sun, the love, and the labor. All of
Mm-hmm.
these things go into the peach that you didn't pull, but someone else did. And or even if you were out, like, in the area and you were pulling a peach, it would still have all of those things in there. Take your time. So when you talk about the colors and the importance of that energy pool,
Yeah.
it's just the same as knowing that God is my center. And if I'm off,
Mm-hmm.
I need to come back to God. God within me. Not a spirit spook floating out of the sky, but God lives in me. And I can do all
Right.
things because I was created in his image. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that once I truly understood that, there was a power that nobody could take from me. That power
Mm-hmm.
belonged to me because God gave it to me. So, yeah.
Whew. Oh, I guess the new thing is this. I don't know. See what it out. But yes,
Oh, yeah,
I
yeah,
love
clock that.
it.
All right, clock that.
Yes. And so when we talk about healing, like I mentioned early on, part of healing to me is maintaining that healed state, which
Right,
is for me peace. And for most people, that's what the purpose of life is. After all of the tumultuous experiences that we will absolutely go through,
right.
how do we maintain the peace? And so to maintain the peace, sometimes we have to go to the past and address some things that were
True.
never addressed. Sometimes we need to work on being present and just focusing on the present moment. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we need to do a little future planning. But for me, in my next recommendation, I'm going to talk about present and being present and how
Wow.
being present helps with peace.
Yes.
So, being present, well, first of all, we know that we have no control over the past. Even if we were to go back and address things, it would never change the past. It's only
Right.
working for the present or the future. The future, many say, robs you of the present because you're so focused on trying to be in the future, whether
Mm.
that's planning, doing too much future planning. That's also where anxiety comes in, where
Mm-hmm.
where we are always trying to predict what's going to happen, script conversations, trying to get things set up just right so that we feel the least amount of pain and
Mm-hmm.
resistance. All of that is anxiety inducing. So if we think about just being in the present, and there's so many mindfulness techniques that are out there, you
Mm.
know, and I could go on and on about them. But one that's not heavily discussed that I use, and I don't know if I heard it somewhere or if I just made it up in my mind, but it's activating the senses.
Mm-hmm.
So we talked about colors, and so those are the visual things. But if I really want to be in like a peaceful moment, and we all kind of do this in our own way,
Mm-hmm.
I will activate all of my senses. So, smell, I'll light
Yes.
a candle or light an incense or
Mm-hmm.
even spray. I could be out and about. I'm like, up, put on my little perfume that I really like, smell it. Like I'm just creating the aura around me. I remember being at your house and you got your oils out. So, that activating their sense of smell,
Yes.
sight, you know, having really beautiful things or whatever appeals to you. Some people sight and appealing to them is minimalism. For me,
Yes.
it's colors. So having colors, sound, having that could be like the sound bowl, that could be the rainforest, that could be soothing music, hip hop music, whatever it is for you, but add that into the
Yes.
equation.
Yes.
And then taste um, and smell. Did I do all of them?
You did.
Sight. Okay. So activating all of your senses at one time, relaxing into that, closing your eyes, feeling. Oh, touch. Feeling. I like things that feel good. So like this velvet chair, like sitting here, I might be working on something and then I'm like rubbing the chair. Not literally like on the chair, but you know, like I might just rub it or rub my leg, but the touch activates something. That's why that's some people's love language. But getting all of the senses activated in the moment brings you into the present and it helps to keep you into the
It's
present
true.
moment. So that is what strategy of mine.
It's true, and I love that. Thank you for sharing because it makes me reflect on how when I wake up in the morning, I have to open up all the windows because I
Mm-hmm.
need to know what the world looks like. This is a day that no person has ever seen before. What is God blessing me with today? Let me see it. And then as the light comes in, it makes everything a little bit brighter, right? When you talk about touch, um, I have a basic wedding band because I had a whole incident where I fell off of a mechanical bull. Shout out to that mechanical bull. I just kind of messed my finger up. And so I've been wearing a basic band ever since. But the thing about it is, it's still my connection. So I will just spin it, and that's my touch. Because as I'm touching it, I know that if my husband is home or not, that there's this connection,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that this is eternal, you know, that this is infinite, you know, and it means something to me. Smell, like you said, I will take the essential oils and I'll, you know, put them in a diffuser in a heartbeat. But I also remember during the pandemic when we was stuck in the house, you know, and I'm home based. So I wake up every day and I get dressed, but I'm not always people ready, but I am store ready. You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
And there may have been a time or two that I said, you know what? I just need to spray some perfume on. not going anywhere, just to my home
Yep.
office. But that scent, outside of the essential oil, that scent just kind of made me feel like, ah, you're so pretty, you know. And like you said, just the touch, just the softness, like I have to have that, and it's just something that just kind of just goes through my body, just the sensations, and the taste. And I just described that a minute ago about when you eat something, take the time to really feel all of its elements, feel its life cycle as it's now about to go within you and bring you more life. So I think that that's wonderful, that you touched on, just activating all the senses. That's really something. And for me, my last tip on healing, or something that I've had to do, is to release my feelings as they come. So not to hold things in, good or bad, not to hold it in, but to release it by sharing, especially if it has to do with someone else. You know, um, and again, that's a tool that I picked up in therapy almost 30 years ago. But I learned that it does not serve me just to keep it to myself. If it's something good and it involves someone else, I should brighten up their life by sharing just how wonderful they are, or what they did that kind of changed, me. Like, I think that that's awesome. And if it's something that's not so pleasing, again, to sit still long enough to choose my words carefully and then give that to them. And if it's the person that I can't give that to, still find a way to write it and release it,
Mm.
so that way I'm not holding on to it, because my vessel needs to be pure. And I can only have a pure vessel if I release all the emotions that come with it, because I need room for more. So that would be the last thing that I would suggest.
Yes. I love the releasing of that energy so it doesn't build up and create pressure. And, there's a book called The Body Keeps the Score.
Yes, I have that.
And it's such a great book. And I only know because of what I've heard from others.
Right.
But I have not read it myself, and I probably should. I know so many people who have it.
Yeah.
But what I've gathered about it and what I've already believed and know for myself is that even if we don't acknowledge a feeling, a trauma, to our body, to our brain, the body is keeping track of all of that, and at some point it comes out and it
Right.
releases in a number of ways. So the fact of like releasing that, writing through it, and everything doesn't require, a therapy session or some sort of
No.
formal therapy with a professional. So I think my last one is going to be making sure to have that friend, that trusted friend, companion, whomever it is. It could be a therapist, it could be a minister, that trusted person who is non-judgmental, who you can speak to freely,
Mm.
and who will just listen
Right.
so that you can release that. There is so much power in speaking out loud the feelings or the thoughts that you have.
Hmm.
And sometimes we get caught up because we share those thoughts, those intimate thoughts, with the wrong people who
Right.
are not equipped to receive those thoughts or to
Right.
support you in that very vulnerable moment. And I find myself, and I've bumped my head along the way with that. And I am so grateful for where I'm at now because I've cultivated this group, or what they call like a tribe, of
Right.
people who, including you, who I can share freely without worrying how this information will get used, without worrying if they're judging me, without hearing their response of like, girl, I can't believe you did that. Who,
Right.
why would you? I don't need judgment. If I'm telling you something, I want you to say, you know what? Okay, this is where we are. Like, give me the radical acceptance perspective, or just give me like, sis, I've been there. I get what you're saying. Here's what I did. And you could probably work it out this way.
Yeah.
But to have somebody trusted that you can be vulnerable with
Hmm.
can take you from no healing to absolute healing.
Absolutely.
It is not required to go to therapy. It is not required to go to support groups or whatever else. But the benefit, and it's the same premise, is that there's somebody who is non-judgmental, listening to you, having empathy for you, showing you
Right.
compassion, and it allows you to release all of that energy. And so for that, that rounds out my last one as
Yeah.
well.
And
So
I
yeah.
love that, and it's so true, right? Because, like I said, therapy for me was just about 30 years ago. But the tools that I walked away with, is, just so priceless. And like you're saying, just having that tribe of people, I have, a handful of people that I can call on who will either listen to me. They're going to listen to me regardless, but they're going to listen to me and they are going to give it to me. Like not in a harsh way, but they know me enough to know if I am just venting, if I need to be reeled back in, or if I just simply cannot articulate a thing that they know I truly want to do. And they help me through those
Mm,
things. The first person, of course, is my husband. But outside of my husband, I have, a couple best friends, and then I have, like some more sister friends that, but I have a couple people that truly know me. And I don't have to explain to them, hey, I really meant. There are times that I do,
right.
but for the most part, it's I know you well enough to know that you meant well, that you have good intentions. But let me bring this back around because you're in your own head, or let me help you to articulate it, or just let me let you go because it sounds like you just need to go and you already have that. I already have the right answer, but I just want to get this stuff off of me too.
To release it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that was about maybe 10 things that we shared, combined, that are good for healing. I would love to know from our audience what type of healing techniques have they used, are they currently using, or things that they might want to implement and they're just not sure how to implement it. I think that it would be important, and I would love actually, for us to develop just a community here,
Yeah.
just for this to be a safe space here, just for our audience, like for us, it is a safe space and we're all growing and we all have the opportunity, um, to heal. We're all worthy, of
Mm,
healing. We all deserve to be healed because no one should walk around in pain at all. We're just living in a
yeah.
time that we don't have to walk around in pain. And so
Exactly.
I am just really welcoming everyone into our community. Is that okay with you, Nicole?
I love it. We need it. We are creating community here, whether you're in Oakland or whether you're in Houston, New York, wherever you are. This is a safe space, and absolutely, if you align with what we are discussing or you want to know more, please leave us comments. We try to get back to everyone's comments, and we do take heed to the suggestions and recommendations that you all give us for
Yeah,
show topics. So thank you.
yeah, yeah.
Any final thoughts?
I just want us all to realize. I know earlier I said that I wasn't going to make this a religious thing, and I'm still not. Um, but I want us all to know that God is real and that we should seek refuge in God. And how do we know that God is real? We know that God is real when we get ourselves into a situation that only God can get us out of.
Mm,
That's one way to know that God is real. Another way to know that God is real is to look at nature and see all of these things that we didn't create. Is to actually stop and think about our mindset and the things that we build with our hands. We're building it with our hands, but only with the intellect of God. And so I would just like everyone to just stop and just consider that you're worthy of healing, you know? And that's what I want to leave everyone with.
Yeah, and we'll leave it with that. You are worthy of healing. You are deserving of healing. This is your deserving season. And so we're going to continue to reiterate that this is your deserving season, whatever your affirmations are for yourself. And in fact, that'll be our activity. Create 3 affirmations for yourself
I like that.
in your journal writing. What are the 3 things that you feel you are deserving of? Write those affirmations down. And every morning you wake up, the very first thing you should do is read your affirmations, keep those at top of mind, and watch as God begins to move in your life.
Yes.
So, on that note, we ready to keep it on the up and up?
Let's do it. Keep it on the up
Keep it on the up and up.
and up.
All right, y'all. Thanks for tuning in.